You're not in the audience, or are you actually?
Whether you're here in person or watching online, we're very glad to have you with us. My name is Jackie Prince, and I'm a member of the Sunday Forum Committee. This morning's program is presented by the Housing Justice Committee. They've assembled a stellar panel of experts to discuss the housing situation. And after a brief housing announcement, I'll I'll turn the program over to Katie Dillon, who is not only our chairman, but also Executive Director of Align in Minneapolis. There will be a microphone available for the question period at the end. Please wait for the mic so that the people at home can hear the questions as well as those here. And there are hearing devices on the table here, if that would help, but please help yourself. And also want to give a shout out to Slats up there, who is one of the people that makes this program possible at all. Thank you. And now, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Katie. Thank you, Katie.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I always feel really lucky when I get to do one of these Sunday forums as a Plymouth member, but also for work. So it's so great to see so many familiar faces, people that I know that have been involved in this work for a long time, even before my time. So thanks for being here. As Jackie mentioned, we have a phenomenal panel, and so we're so grateful for everyone that has come to join us today and lend their expertise. I'm just going to take a brief moment to introduce myself, and then I'm going to have the panelists introduce themselves. So as Jackie said, my name is Katie Dillon. I'm a member here at Plymouth Congregational. I am the chair of the Housing Justice Committee under the Outreach Board. I wear other hats as well, but that's the one that's important today. I'm also the director of Align Minneapolis, which is an interfaith coalition of 19 faith congregations working together with people experiencing homelessness to end homelessness. And Plymouth is one of the founding members of that organization back when it was called Downtown Congregations to End Homelessness. So we'd love to start today by asking each of our panelists to introduce themselves. We want them to share their name and what organization they're with, and then tell us a little bit about what brings them to this work. This is hard work, this is heart work, and we know that the people that are in it are doing it because they're really committed. So just first, I'd love to turn it over to Tyra. So if you could just say your name and what organization you're with and why you come to this work.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Katie. My name is Tyra Thomas, and I am born and raised in South Minneapolis. I have lived experience of homelessness on and off for 20 years, with children and without children. I am now a facilitator of a phenomenal group called Street Voices of Change since 2016. I was there to be a part of the process of what the name was going to be, what the color of the shirts were going to be, and the structure of our meetings. And we have created brave spaces with the help of Align to facilitate folks with lived experience be a part of the change of changing the experience of homelessness. So I also do national work. Now it has moved to a national level through an organization called Community Solutions. And so I go around the country with other lived experiences in different states to help communities learn how to meaningfully engage with those experiencing homelessness.
Thank you.
Good morning, Plymouth. My name's LaTondresse, and I am a recently former Hennepin County Commissioner, which makes me a recovering elected official. And I come to the current work as President and CEO of Beacon Interfaith Housing Collaborative, which you can draw a straight line to our existence and the work that Beacon does in our community, to the leadership right here in this room, in this congregation. What really started as a pretty audacious vision 20 plus years ago, a handful of some of you in this room asking how to better love your unhoused neighbors living in a multi-block radius here, has turned into the largest provider of permanent supportive housing, site-based permanent supportive housing in the state of Minnesota, and also a very audacious and powerful movement of over 65 congregations here in the Twin Cities metro area working together to advance affordable housing solutions and to end homelessness. What brings me to this work is both my family's lived experience of housing instability. When I was a teenager, we had just returned back to Minnesota from 5 years of Christian missionary service work abroad, and we didn't have anywhere to live, and we didn't for about 6 months. So that experience helped shape my passion, my values, and my outlook on this issue. But I think what really brings me to this work is knowing that as we sit here today, there is a mom who will, as Minnesota fall turns to winter, be tucking their child to bed in the back seat of their car tonight. And as long as that's true, we've got some work to do.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Erin Wixsten. I work for Hennepin County Housing Stability. I've been in the sort of sector of homelessness and housing for over 25 years. I got into it accidentally. I was working with young people in alternative schools, and on the weekend I had a part-time job at a youth shelter. And at the time, this is a long time ago, there was like a card catalog for the clients, and I was realizing how many young people were experiencing kind of precarious educational, they were in alternative programs, they were in the emotional behavior classes, and some of those same kids were showing up at the homeless shelter as shelter guests. And it was in that moment, I was about 24 years old, I realized, oh, intersectionality, this is what that looks like. And kind of fell into working with youth experiencing homelessness in nonprofit. For about 15 years, I was a consultant working in homelessness across Canada and the United States, and now I work at Hennepin in housing stability. So I'm a lifer if we don't end homelessness, and then that's my goal, is work myself out of a job. So I'm happy to be here this morning. Thank you.
That's great. A lot of similarities. Good morning, everybody. My name is Joel Salzer. I work at Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. So there, in the role that I do, there's a sort of couple intersections here. One is we provide capital financing for affordable housing for like projects that Chris was talking about, that Beacon does, projects that you've supported through Beacon. That's capital side of things. The other area that I'm involved in is our housing stability team. So it's the team of folks who actually work with a development team to ensure that those supportive housing units are designed and built as they're supposed to be for the people who will live in there, to ensure that when folks move in there, they're able to live and thrive in community. Then the other half of what we do on the housing stability team is work with like prevention resources and rental assistance to help folks get and keep housing. My story, a little bit a blend of a lot of this is, well, like you, it's probably long and storied, but at the end of it, I think the theme is social justice. When I volunteered for a year out in Hillsboro, Oregon, working in a shelter for homeless families. Part of my job was to work with the families in the morning, and my job was always to, now that looking back, it was to get people out by 9 o'clock. And when you're working with families with kids and they literally have no place to go outside of the shelter, you see the impact on kids. And when I saw the faces of the kids as I kicked them out and then brought them back in later, that doesn't leave you. And so came back to Minnesota, found different ways to get connected to housing stability, also started in the youth area. I then spent 10 years down the block here at Lutheran Social Service, in a whole variety of areas, and then over to Minnesota Housing now. So good morning, thanks for having us.
Good morning, my name is Stephan, LeSure. I'm originally born and raised in Chicago. I'm a writer. I love people. I love talking to people. I love educating people. I have a degree in sociology. I moved to Minnesota with the intentions of growing, learning, educating, and working. I got here, got 2 jobs in 2 weeks, was doing great. Crushed my foot, things went different. Went to Street Voices when they as one of the original members, and we put together a little program that we first understood how it gave us and ourselves inner peace. For me, it has helped me keep and stay grounded, because there's so many things that the homeless people have to go through. The transformation is what I try to deal with in education. and connecting them to resources that can get them beyond that. I was blessed yesterday. Gentleman I seen, he had been on drugs 5, 6 years. He saw me uptown, he almost cried. He said, I've been clean ever since. I said, yeah, well now you got to find you a different company of people to hang out with. Don't step up in the crowd of people and say, I'm sober. But everybody's got a bottle in their hand. But you, eventually you're gonna fall if you don't have no support system. And that's what Street Voices is. It's a support system. You can come into our meetings, you can sit down, you don't have to say a word. Enjoy your breakfast, but eventually you'll come around because you'll hear that language, you'll hear that different tone, you'll see different things. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Stephan. If we could just get the mic back to this end. So I've got a few different questions for different panelists as we go through. But first off, as we think about homelessness in our city, we know that there are many different reasons that people may experiencing homelessness and many different ways that people come out of homelessness. Tyra, what do you think is important for people to know about people experiencing homelessness? What do you want folks to know that are housed as we think about our unhoused neighbors?
Housing is a human right. And what I want housed folks to know who have never experienced or never have had journeyed with someone experiencing homelessness is that what happens to my neighbor can happen to me. That's what I want housed people to understand. It's not about addiction. It's not about mental health. It's not about non-payment of rent. Some of those things can be impactful. Poverty is what's fueling homelessness. The haves and the have-nots. We all see the news. The wealth gap is even further apart. And so lines have been drawn, and now we have folks telling us again how to care for our unhoused neighbors. Lived experiences is key at the seat, at this table. Anywhere the word homelessness is being uttered, there better be a lived experience at that same table. On every level, every sector, and intersection, lived experience should be at the table, helping shape, mold the desire, the wants to end homelessness. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Hurricane, fire, funeral, divorce, all these things can impact where a person cannot afford their housing. So again, deeply affordable. I hear the word affordable all the time. But then I say, affordable to whom? So when we say deeply, that means everyone. It's a human right.
Thank you. Thanks. Erin, I wonder if you could speak to what are some of the biggest driving factors in why people experience homelessness and housing instability?
Yeah, I think Tyra kind of mentioned it as affordability, right? The vast majority of people who are living with substance use in our country are housed. Most people who are living with treated or untreated mental health in our country are housed. In fact, most people who are living in poverty are housed. Maybe not with doubled up, or they're living with friends and family. But we're looking at an affordability issue, and she made an excellent point that it really is about affordable to whom. Affordability is insane. We're all sharing rents and mortgages right now, whether it's with your spouse, with your family. And for a lot of people, they don't have access to those resources. And a lot of times, Historical institutional inequities, racism has impacted the ability for people to get out of the situation that they're in, and it's been exacerbated by mental health and substance use. So the exact point that Tyra made is that it's not drugs, it's not mental health. Those things often are a consequence of trauma, and people need stable housing from which to heal. And from the dignity and stability of home, people are better able to address the rest of the things in their lives. It's just a lot of times the folks that we're working with, especially unsheltered folks, they're just experiencing a lot of the same things everyone in this room is in public. They don't have walls and a roof to kind of have those lived experiences in private. So it's a lot of exposure to an already vulnerable population.
Thank you so much. Chris, affordable housing has been mentioned. Can you go a little bit deeper into that? How does housing play a role in homelessness, either contributing to underlying causes as well as to solutions, and specifically around housing affordability?
Yeah, well, here's the big picture. Right here in Hennepin County, 45% of households are housing cost burden. That means they pay more than a third of their income on their rent or their mortgage. When you look at the lowest end of the income spectrum, 30% of the area median income and below, that's at about the poverty line and below, we have in our ecosystem right now, Twin Cities metro area, about 45,000 homes, units of housing that are affordable to a household at that income level. There are 125,000 households at that income level. That is a staggering 72,000 unit gap on deep affordability that directly correlates to the unsheltered homelessness and homelessness of all types that we see and witness in our community. That's the bad news. I think the good news is we actually know how to end homelessness. Right here in Hennepin County, we have successfully reduced unsheltered homelessness by 35% over the last 5 years. We have moved 9,500 Minnesotans from homelessness to housing. We have functionally ended veterans homelessness, not just here in Hennepin County, but in 86 of 87 counties in Minnesota. Quietly, invisible solutions working in our communities. The problem is that those solutions are insufficiently funded and scaled. But they are a great public return on investment. And I want to call out one specific piece of that system response to homelessness that is quietly operating in the background right now. That's permanent supportive housing. That's housing, deeply affordable, plus services for folks overcoming homelessness. Housing plus case management, a professional, caring person who's willing to meet somebody where they're at, help them identify their goals, empower them to meet those goals, and not only stay stably housed, but to thrive in other aspects of their life. Supportive housing is the invisible backbone of our community solutions on homelessness. And working together, of course, with prevention strategies, with shelter, which I think is best thought of as sort of the emergency room on homelessness, but it is not the long-term fix on homelessness. Housing ends homelessness. But it is fragile, it is chronically underfunded, and therefore it is imperfect, but it is indispensable, and we will sure miss it when it's gone. Which, and we'll talk about this today, it has never been under greater attack or risk than it is today, actually, with actions that this administration took on Friday, which is the day that will live in infamy for any of us that care about housing and homelessness.
Thank you. When thinking about housing stability as well as homeless prevention, Joel, can you share some of the big factors in helping people maintain their housing and not fall back into homelessness?
Broken record, affordability, right? Affordable housing is it. And there's two ways that housing is affordable. You have an income that helps you afford rent, or you have rental subsidies that help close the gap. But that's it. We don't need to make it more complex than that. What we love to do is turn homelessness into a character issue. And Erin, you mentioned this earlier, and I'll be more direct. It is not poor, black, brown, and indigenous people making bad choices why homelessness exists. And if there's one thing that I would hope we could continue to vocalize and talk about, is to fight against that myth and to continue pushing forward that it is affordable housing that does and can end homelessness. Chris talked about permanent supportive housing, and he mentioned 2 of the 3 key components to it. It's affordable and it's access to services. But the 3rd key piece of supportive housing is that it's permanent. You do not have to leave. People can move into this housing, stabilize, and they can choose to move on when they are ready. But it's the distinct difference between what shelter is, where you can stay for up to 24 months, and then you must move, versus permanent supportive shelter, which is this is your home. As we mentioned earlier, Friday's news threatens everything about that.
Yeah.
Back up on that. Housing justice. Housing justice. This is what it's about. I know I've been discriminated against in my hometown, state of Minnesota. I know I've been redlined. Always felt it, always knew it. When I go look for housing, when I look in the paper, just the dollar amounts were saying, you can't live in this neighborhood, let alone the racism that came with it and the stigma that you talked about, Joe, that came with it. Again, Minnesota nice to who? My grandparents are buried in Fort Snelling. Housing justice. And then I waited for help. I waited for a breakthrough in my housing search with and without children. And a breakthrough came. Several students at the University of Minnesota went through thousands of housing deeds and found the words that said, I can't live here. The shame, the anger, housing justice.
Thank you, Tyra. So obviously we all know that folks with lived experience raising their voices is incredibly powerful. That's one of the reasons that I am in this work and that I'm so lucky and grateful to be working with Align and with Street Voices of Change. Stephan, I wonder if you could speak a little bit as well to the value that lived experience voices brings to this work.
Well, first of all, first and most importantly, if you take someone who lives in a 5-bedroom home, gives him a title, and tells him to fix a problem, he's going to be doing what he's been doing. It's been going on like this for hundreds of years, so why change now? The reason the need for change is because what she said about what affects your community affects me, what affects my community affects you. And it keeps us in a defensive mind about people. I don't know one homeless individual who filled out an application. None. It don't happen like that. I've never been homeless in my life. I lived in a home for 37 years. Coming to Minnesota, first time I ever slept at the Salvation Army. And I did not like it. I did not like the way we were treated. Everybody looked at you and said, well, you're here, you're a drug addict, you're an alcoholic, you this, you that, you're a thief. I don't steal, I educate people. And that's why I'm here today, to let people know that what happened Friday is gonna really, really affect Minnesota. $17 million. Then you had a presidential order that if you are homeless and you're caught in the streets, intoxicated, you could be civilly committed. That don't make good sense to me. Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to open up 20 more treatment centers? The time has come for when we have to align ourselves and utilize the resources that's available to us. Get out in the street. I'm out there every day, 5 days a week, grounded, talking to people, giving them resources. We have a little program that we see people on the street with baggage. We have a shelter, a storage that we send them to. If you want to get yourself together, and here's another problem that makes you look like you're nothing. There's only 2 places you can go take a shower. 2. In the whole state of Minneapolis, in this circle. 2. And the shelter is so dangerous. We have been working on what we call the Shelter's Bill of Rights, to say even though I'm homeless, I still have rights.
That's right.
When you wake me up in the middle of the night because I'm snoring and tell me I got to go, that's dangerous. That's dangerous. That's no compassion. It's always comes back to my job. I also sit on the board at Hennepin County with Jacob Fry, Angela Conley, Ellison, David Hewitt, and Mayor Fry created a group called Lived Experience, but they don't know nothing about lived experience. They see it from the other side of the street. They don't see it up close and personal. You'll never catch them in the street talking to people, but you'll find them behind closed doors making decisions on homeless people that doesn't serve the homeless community. And we got a visit Friday while we were having a meeting at the Basilica. And he walked in and said, David Hewitt, he said, I need your help. I think it was in 2000, we went through the budget and we figured out what was in the best interest of the homeless community. And that worked out until they snatched $17 million. Now we got to go back to the table and find out how can we fill those gaps. And my greatest fear is the fact that if we don't address this now in our community, the next 3 generations will respond to what we transferred to them, and they'll be right at the Salvation Army.
That's right. Thank you, Stephan. Yeah.
This is why we must come together collectively.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So when we were preparing for the panel, it was in the midst of the government shutdown. We didn't know what might happen, but we knew there were quite a lot of risks. So as you sort of heard foreshadowed, some decisions came through late Thursday and into Friday that are going to severely impact and be really, really brutal to this system. So Joel and Chris, I wonder if you could even just expand a little bit on what was mentioned, what Stephan mentioned, in terms of those cuts, in terms of the reality that we're looking at.
Yeah, maybe I can set the table, and anything I miss, Joel, you can fill in, and others as well who hold different pieces of this system. But here's the big picture story that I think Americans need to wake up and understand. That we are right now at a code red around decades, 4 decades of bipartisan progress, of proven solutions on homelessness, that this administration is trying to walk away from. What do I mean by that? We essentially have 2 futures in front of us right now. One, where we protect what we've built that's working, we grow it. I mentioned it's inadequately funded and scaled, but we know what works. It's effective and cost effective. And transform where it's not working, principally by listening to those most affected. So that's one future. The other future is to say our response as a nation to homelessness is going to be alligator Alcatraz. That is not a hyperbole. That is what this administration has said their priority is. And we have states where that is already starting to happen, places like Utah. Those are the two futures right now. The action on Friday took 4 decades of progress, going actually back to the Reagan administration. So it was Ronald Reagan that created the low-income housing tax credit that is the principal source of capital funding in a lot of multifamily affordable housing nationwide, but including in supportive housing. He also created the Interagency Council on Homelessness in the name of government efficiency, to have what government resources existed on homelessness to better coordinate. It was Bill Clinton that created the Continuum of Care framework. It was George W. Bush that first dramatically scaled federal investments in housing first. This is 4 decades of bipartisan progress up and to the right on proven solutions. What that's turned into now is a program at HUD called the Continuum of Care, COC. This is getting a little wonky and technical, but it's important for people to be as familiar with COC as you are with SNAP, because it is as foundational to the health of our communities. The COC program moves about $3.5 billion, with a B, annually into communities who write their own plans to end homelessness. There are 400 of these continuums of care around the country. Each one's like a little district that gets a big chunk of government money and writes their plans on homelessness. Hennepin County is a COC. Ramsey is a COC. The 7 collar counties are a COC, and they get these dollars. 87% of that funding goes to permanent supportive housing. As I mentioned before, it's quietly the invisible backbone of our system. What the administration did on Friday is gut that, reduce substantially, and we can maybe go into the details of what this will mean, but if they prevail, it will upend 4 decades of progress. So what we need right now from community is to step up and get loud on this. And we are in the midst, as a community, here in Minnesota and nationwide, of coordinating a coordinated legal, policy organizing, and public relations communications response. And that's, we've got this, this flyer around. That's one of the actions that we're elevating for folks. But Joel, is there anything else you'd want to? Yeah.
Excuse me, Joe. Yeah, that connection to that billions and billions of dollars that the COC, that connection to our state-run housing programs, like, which is formerly known as GRH, is now Housing First, which is what I believe in, housing first, and then the supportive community, helps folks stay housed. However, the state the state of Minnesota has failed to usher in the taxpayers' dollars and making sure that it's landing where it's supposed to land. That is also a problem. That is a lot of money, billions of dollars, to the COC, and there's no oversight. It's why Street Voices got together about the Shelter Residence Bill of Rights, so that folks are protected in shelter where tax-paying dollars are being sent, when we're saying we are being inhumanely treated. I don't even like to use the word concentration camp, but if that's where I have to go for people to understand the relevance of the experience that we've been experiencing in shelters, it's the same way with housing. That's just the next level. Systems have failed human beings that look like me, black and brown indigenous bodies, and there's a serious connection to those dollars not landing. So then now as we're moving forward, we're understanding there's the fraud there. I really do resent the fact that the fraud in this town has a brown face on it. They're run by white agency. White agencies are sending the check. These folks didn't do it all by themselves. They learned it from somewhere. So with that being said, as we're moving forward, as Chris was saying, we have to be, it's really, really fragile to make sure that we're ushering in this money and these finances and ushering folks into housing. And and to get loud about it.
Yeah.
You are my neighbor. You're paying your taxes. You're tithing. You're volunteering. Now help me make sure that money lands where it's supposed to land. When we say it's not happening, believe me.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck following that, right? Heard on everything you said. There will be 170,000 people who are currently permanently housed right now that will be kicked out of that housing because the funding is not going to come through. We were on a call with HUD on Friday and said, what is the option for the 170,000 people who are in permanent supportive housing who is not going to get the funding anymore? What's going to happen to those 170,000 people? Where are they going to go? No answer. No response. The only focus that was emphasized over and over and over again was we'll build shelters, and basically all the people who are unhoused living on the street that you don't like to look at, we will put them in shelter and force services upon them in order to stay there. It is that simple, it is that clear. The solution to end homelessness is housing, and that is what permanent supportive housing is, and the funding is going away for that as of the Thursday notice.
Just really quick to build on that point. So 170,000 Americans who have successfully overcome homelessness right now living in supportive housing. HUD's own most recent count on chronic homelessness, this is a very specific federal definition, it doesn't encompass all types of homelessness, is less than 170,000. So the practical impact in communities will be to unhouse as many folks who have successfully overcome homelessness as are waiting for housing right now nationwide. So that will not only obviously harm these friends and neighbors and fellow Americans who've overcome homelessness. If you have any concern, whether it's because you're moved by human compassion or you just have broader concerns about just the health and vitality of our community and the impact of homelessness in our community, this is going to cause a surge in homelessness in our community at precisely the time we've been making progress.
Thank you.
Also, I wanted to note that I was financially exploited by a housing program, well known, been doing the work for almost 75 years at the time I came into it, saying they were providing services for me that wasn't happening, double dipping into the Medicaid, saying that things were happening that they weren't. They were serving me 3 meals, they were giving me a gift card, and I was literally just only getting $107 per month. So that was in 2012. Mm-hmm. That was in 2012. So now that we're here in the land of like exposing the housing fraud, because first it was feeding the future, but there's an intersection there, and I knew it. I said, ooh, it's coming. Mm-hmm. But it's fixable, it's doable. Whatever the feds are talking about, I know what Minnesota can do to fill that gap. That train that's coming past getting ready to come past my home in a little bit, they needed $200 million. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Ooh. They went and took our money and gave them $200 million because they needed more money. And then 3-4 months later after that, they needed $200 million more. Whoop, there it went. We need this train. It became the most expensive train probably in U.S. history.
Thank you.
I better not fall asleep on it.
Right.
Katie, can I just add one thing?
Yes.
So one of my jobs, or part of my job at Hennepin County is I'm the program manager for our Streets to Housing team, which is a street-based housing navigation and service delivery team, so typically called street outreach. But we really have kind of moved the needle in Hennepin County to move from sort of managing homelessness, which I kind of called like socks and sandwiches outreach, to really being housing focused and really ending homelessness. So we have outreach teams that are, professionalized, connected to our coordinated entry system, that are helping people navigate all housing solutions. And so we have seen a reduction significantly in the population that's experiencing unsheltered homelessness in Hennepin County. Hennepin County has 45 cities in it. I know we like to focus on Minneapolis. A lot of the services are here, most of them, in fact. But the impact of the announcement on Friday would impact all of the county. All of the COCs are encompassing SMAC is 7 counties, and they receive a lump of money. Ramsey, all of Ramsey. So it's not just like the city. So this has a broad stretch impact. And also for myself, who's worked in direct service roles, and with my team now, with folks that are experiencing unsheltered homelessness, which means that they don't bed down in emergency shelter every night. They bed down outside. You see them historically maybe in encampments. This is going to inflow hundreds of people into that setting. Our shelter capacity can't absorb hundreds of more people. And so then the response is extremely punitive. You're outside, or you don't want treatment, or you don't, and they may be living in, I had a glass of wine last night. I'm a substance user. So I'm gonna go outside, and I'm gonna be interfaced by law enforcement, or we don't even really quite clear about the jurisdictional, like who's gonna be out there doing this work, and say you're not gonna be mandated to be sober. Okay, we're gonna put you somewhere. Well, where is we don't even know these, we don't even have answers to the questions that are being asked. As you can tell, we're all like in a mild state of panic in the sector. But for the work that we've done in unsheltered homelessness across the country, but really here in Hennepin, I'm really proud of it, is going to not only go away, but be it'll increase. And because people are gonna be losing their housing that are currently housed coming into the streets, and then going forward, the availability of new resources is going to be significantly less. So it's just going to surge. And we don't have the existing resources to absorb that in our existing system. And so the answers that HUD was giving is like, we don't know either, and it's probably going to be very bad what solutions will come online. So I just want to kind of add that from a context of working in the unsheltered space. Folks outside have as much right to dignity and housing as folks who choose or who opt into shelter. I've always said I'm the best person for my particular role, because I definitely would not go to emergency shelter if I was experiencing homelessness, for many of the reasons that Stephan has described. I don't want to be told what time I have to go to bed. I have multiple animals. I like to have a glass of wine sometimes. So I'm not going to be someone who's going to want to kind of go into that infrastructure. I probably would stay in my car or crash on a friend's couch, make the best of the situation. So working with people who are unsheltered as somehow they've done something wrong, or they're choosing to be homeless, is not an accurate description of that particular population. And I have just my last thing, I have a really hard time with like the homeless population, because the only thing oftentimes that people have in common is that they're experiencing homelessness at the exact same time. That there's not some community, I mean, there's communities that are created through street voices and affinity groups and things like that, but the population that's unhoused is the exact same population and is in this room. It's wildly representative of the human experience. And so I think just understanding that these resources that are available to this community that they're eligible for is going to be going away in significant ways.
Thank you. So the time's going fast because we've got all these amazing panelists. So I'd love to just take the end that we have here to just offer, if anybody, well, I would love to hear from all of you. For the folks that are here today, we have a great group here. What do you want them to do as they leave here? This is obviously a time when, it's more important than ever to be raising our voices. What do you want people to do, or what do you want people to know as they leave this room?
I want people to know that real community works towards the greater good. And to know that as a human being, there's none among us who don't have stumbling feet. And that's why it's so important that we join forces. The most valued commodity we have is our children. And if we don't educate them and put them on the right path, then we're simply transferring everything we say we don't like. And that is a difficult task to do, because today we have social media. Today we have cell phones. We don't have landlines like when I was growing up. So it's gonna take a community to raise these kids. And we're gonna have to utilize the YWCA, the youth centers across the state of Minneapolis to actually get these people into a mental mind. Because you got families, you got mothers who's scared to come outside after dark. But they let their kids outside. These are things that community can have control over. The things that we can do as people to kind of make it easier. Again, no one has to be homeless, you know, and it's not a disease. It's not something you can pass on to someone.
Thank you, Stephan. Thank you. Others that you would, other things that folks would add?
Real quick, the reason why homelessness exists is because affordable housing doesn't exist, period. It is not because poor people make bad choices, period. Please be bold about fighting that narrative every time you hear it.
Yes, thank you, yes.
This work has never been more challenging and never been more needed. And it needs each and every one of us, including each and every one of you, more than it's ever needed you before. I think the call to action in this moment that I've been meditating on the most over the last 6 or 7 months actually came from Colin and Sophie Hortman in the aftermath of their parents' murder. They said the best way to honor our parents' legacy is to do something, anything, large or small, to make our communities a little bit better. To plant a tree, to pet a dog, to speak up, especially if it's for justice, to love our neighbors as ourselves. I think that this is a moment where a lot of us, especially in this human service space that has intersections with the federal government, the temptation has been to get small, to get quiet, to just put our heads down and hope that all of this just blows over. It's not blowing over, folks. This is an all hands on deck moment. And so at a time of fear, all of us need to move forward with courage and clarity. At a time of lies, we need to stand up and tell the truth. We need to tell the truth about these programs and who they benefit. And at a time of retreat, we need to boldly step forward. That's the call to action in this moment. A couple of opportunities to be in community around this over the course of the next month. On November 25th, Tuesday before Thanksgiving, we are hosting, and when I say we, it's the community, it's not just Beacon, a 12-hour vigil. And it's going to go from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. It's called Losing Sleep, Losing Home. We're still working on exactly what the location will be on that, but if you sign up for our action alerts here, we'll get the information out to folks. We also, and I don't know the exact date, the annual march, Memorial March on homelessness.
December 18th.
Is coming up on December 18th, I think right here.
Yep,
Please join us in community.
thank you. Thanks, Chris.
Ooh, thank you for allowing me to speak my piece, because it does bring me peace to do the things and educate folks, to hold that all within. There was a time where I was just walking around and sharing, even with my beloved community, experiencing homeless while I was homeless, and folks were like, "No, don't talk about it. They'll retaliate. They'll kick you out. They'll ban you," and all of those things did happen. They'll threaten your family. That happened. Agency. Help me fight against agency that is stealing my agency. That I'm a human being. I'm not an imposter. I belong.
Yeah.
Speak out about it. We're taught to see something, say something.
Yeah.
We have slavery look just like ICE to me.
Thank you. Thanks.
And we got this administration for 3 years.
Yeah.
We have to fight tooth and nail. And I need some badass white privilege in my corner, okay?
That's right, that's right.
And bring your pocketbook in case I go to
have your-
jail, okay?
Take
Fight the powers.
Yeah, have your cameras out. We don't know what we're going to be fighting, but
So
this
we do have
room
to
is full
close
of
out, but I
opportunity.
welcome folks to talk to you at
Yeah.
the end. So
Right.
thank you so much for being here, for listening. One of the things that I and the Housing Justice Committee hope that you'll take with you today is that we are responsible for providing dignity and care and love and community and taking action. We are all a part of this. These are our neighbors that are going to be impacted and are currently impacted. So show up in whatever way you can. There's a table right outside here. There's a table in Jones Commons with tons of opportunities to get involved. We've got the Homeless Memorial March, like they mentioned, coming up December 18th. There's a Zamia play happening. There's a fundraiser for Align happening. There's so many ways that folks can get involved. So we hope that we've inspired you to do that today. And thank you again to our incredible panel. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you all very much. And thank you for being here. Let's all go out and spend this week doing all we can to ameliorate this situation. But next Sunday, come back and we'll give you a lighter touch. Next Sunday, we have a rare treat. Our technical administrator, Cody Bordeaux, has another side to his talents. He's going to talk to us about music and composition. So it will be wonderful, and please come back. Thank you.